Oftentimes we think we know why a company is struggling, but we miss the point. The key is to always focus on the results, and that will tell you what they're doing. Redfin's a company that I think has lost about $1 billion over time, or invested $1 billion of equity over time that's lost. Hasn't made a profit, hasn't paid a penny in federal state income taxes during this time period, yet is one of the big gorillas in the jungle in real estate. How can that be? There must be something that they are doing that is achieving the results that their real customers appreciate. Now, one of the things I say all the time is, if you're not paying for the service or product, you are the product or the service. In the case of Redfin, so many consumers use and don't realize that they're being used, their data is being sold to other parties, not necessarily for their benefit. So who is Redfin's customers? Well, it's not real estate agents. Their stated purpose is to destroy the real estate industry as we know it today. And so you look at the venture capitalists who have financed Redfin and realize the customers of the company are the investors. And they're using this Trojan horse to get their product in other ways, to sell other products and services. What do I mean by that? Well, one piece of example of that is their chief economist. Chief economist Daryl Fairweather. She might be a lovely person, never met her. I know nothing about her personally. I have read what she says online regularly. I have seen her bio on LinkedIn and such, and I just find it fascinating that somebody is anything but a chief economist with the title chief economist. What do I mean by that? Well, and by the way, I don't know what she makes. I'm guessing $200,000, $300,000 a year to be the chief economist for Redfin. Now, does that mean she's advising Redfin on how to make decisions as a chief economist? You can contract that out. No, it's to create the position so they create content as a thought leader to improve their customers or prospective customers. So I'm guessing she makes about that much. Her income is not in the public financing. We look at her experience, all she's done her whole life. Now, these are since she became the economist, she's on these different boards. And this is the whole point of the job, I think. Before that, her only job was working at Amazon as a behavioral economist. Now, really, she was looking at data to see how shoppers bought, clicked, whatever. That's not traditionally what you think of as an economist. You think of an economist more looking at how people spend money and more of an economic, the economy of the buyers and sellers economy rather than individuals. But okay, so she worked at Amazon for 2 years and now is the chief economist at Redfin. But notice on her resume, she works at the Federal Bank of Dallas. We'll get to that. General partner, Ditech Ventures. We'll explain what that is. Contributor Forbes. I don't know. That just means you pay the money, I guess. And a board member at Alcida Health. These sound all innocuous, but they're not. They're all part of the ecosystem of when you are a venture capitalist and you don't make money, how you pay back your friends who invest in your company. Let's take a look at that. So here is her being appointed to the Dallas Fed. So this is a woman who, she worked at Amazon studying clicks and non-clicks and carts, and she's a chief economist at Redfin, and she's on the board of the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank, determining federal economic policy for the region of Dallas based on that experience. Now, it's true she went to MIT. If that impresses you, good for you. Personally, other than the engineers and the scientists, MIT to me just means an overblown resume. Really, it's the most unimpressive institution other than the sciences. But here's a woman who now has her finger on the trigger of the entire US economy. Imagine investing in a company and then you get to know her, and she's the person who is both giving you information about the economy as well as making the direction of the economy. Now, I mentioned she's on the board of Alcida Health. Well, what are they? Well, let's just read it. Alcida Health is basically they're in the business of distributing money for COVID to government institutions. So this is kind of like the business of COVID services. Now, if you think the vaccine was life-saving and should be required and people should be fired if they don't take the vaccine, this is your company. If you think the vaccine is a overblown, overreach government use, and the government is purposely ignoring inexpensive therapeutics to push the industry. This is the public enemy number one. These kind of companies, they operate below the radar. They're kind of like cockroaches. You don't see them, but they're infecting your kitchen nevertheless if you'll get rid of them. And so this is a whole industry designed to spread around, make money off of COVID-19 and related pandemic responses. Another company on her list was Ditech. And you look at these companies, and really this is like a collaboration of the worst of the worst. You have Public Benefit Corporation, which is leading paradigm shift in mental health care. Nothing wrong with helping mental health care, but the idea here is to give more drugs. Now, one thing you'll know about mental health drugs is there's no science showing that giving people with mental health problems solves their mental health problems. It does help solve the pharmaceutical companies as an outlet to sell more drugs. But one of the problems is the commercialization of the drugs in the health industry. So there you have that. OpenAI, what could possibly go wrong with commercialization of OpenAI? Here, this is one that caught my attention, the Pride Vodka. So here's a company that's so committed to LGBTQIA+, that 10% of their proceeds goes to these organizations. That just seems a little odd to me. I mean, I guess if you want to donate to them, but here's actually investing money into a company that's their vodka. It doesn't taste good necessarily or bad, I guess, but the one claim to the company, what makes them different is, and I think at the end of the day, that just means they're political activists. Nothing wrong with that. Let's just lay our cards out so we know who we're dealing with. So this is a woman she's on these very powerful boards that are affecting America at the deepest level. She's on the Fed, affecting financial policy. She's on a health insurance company benefiting from COVID-19's pandemic response. And she's on another venture company investing in pharmaceuticals for mental health and the more increased governmentization of mental health issues, as well as political activism at the level of vodka. Again, nothing wrong with any of that. My goal is just to point all this out. Now, let's see what this woman says. She's an economist, and her most quoted post is on TMZ. When you get news on TMZ, you're really in trouble. But it's just interesting what she says here. I want to stop her. She said, I'm hopeful they're moving in the right direction in terms of building more housing that would be affordable. Okay, we're all in favor of that. Meantime, there's nothing wrong with renting. Renting can be a better option, especially if you want flexibility. Now, this is the statement of the progressive left. Their mission, if you really listen to behind the scenes, World Economic Forum and leaders of the Democratic Party, it's pushing people into low-income housing, high-density housing near public transportation. And you're not going to build a house with a white picket fence in the backyard near public transportation. You're going to have rental units. And so anytime they say rent can be a better option, right? That's the mantra of the World Economic Forum. This is where we're being sold. So again, here's Redfin, who you think their job would be talking about the American dream, empowering the American dream, championing the American dream. No. She's basically, well, it's not that big a deal for your rent. And this is the chief of economist. And by the way, this is not a economist position. This is a political activist position. And economists would talk about renting is good for the economy and has some data to support how it affects the GDP, or it's bad for the economy and have data to support that. There is no data here. There's no economics here. This is just pure social science, political science in the form of political activism, stating their point of view. She's also posted, she went to the St. Paul, Minneapolis Sierra Club. Again, this is a hardcore political activist about land value tax. Those who are serious about conservation and environmentalism are supportive of policies that discourage sprawl and encourage dense housing. Now, again, this is the chief economist of Redfin basically saying, forgive up on the American dream of owning your own home with your own yard in a nice suburban setting. You should want to live in dense housing. And of course, as that dense housing almost always is rental, because people will buy condos in Manhattan. They'll buy condos as a second home in a beach in Miami. But generally, people don't want to live in high rises for the most part. There are some that do. But for the most part, people want to live on land. So this is the chief economist of Redfin, who previously told us that renting is okay, now telling us that we need to have more dense housing and learn to love that. Now, I'm not sure where she lives. Here's another article, another post by her. Now, this was the article she linked to. She's praising this Roseville resident, Susan Natali, who says she recognized that people need houses, so I'm going to probably move on. And it's better to build around railway stations and take away nature or agricultural land. So this is the Redfin economist telling you, yeah, we should be building our houses anywhere other than near railway stations, and let's not take away any undeveloped land. And what's funny is, like all progressives, she's aspirational. She's saying she's going to move out of her house. She hasn't moved out yet, though. The picture of her is in her beautiful backyard. She's not giving that up today. I'd love to find out, I'm not sure when the article was, if she actually moved out. Everybody says they're going to do the right thing. Doesn't mean you're going to do the right thing, number one. Number two, is it really good to have a woman who lived there for 50 years? I imagine that means she's in her 70s. Move just to make room because we can't build houses elsewhere? Is that really our social policy? Being in the business, being in a neighborhood of people like that, I see why people want to stay in their homes. They're comfortable. They have friends. They have neighbors. They're connected. Their community. So basically, the chief economist of Redfin is applauding this woman for saying that she actually did it. That she's going to move out of her community and move where? What kind of life is she going to have? Is she have family or friends? We don't know. So again, all this is aspirational. There's no real sacrifice here. And I found this last post by her laughable, because one thing about all political activists is they all want to pretend they're fair and even-handed. And what she said is, diversity perspective is needed in the economics profession. You need people to interject and say, your theory of the economy doesn't explain the perspective that you haven't paid attention to before. And the incumbent economist must humbly take those criticisms instead of dismissing them as purely anecdotal. So what she's really saying is, the basic, time-tested economics should all just take a back seat to us. But again, as I pointed out to you, Daryl Fairweather, as economist, is not presenting economic theories justifying renting. She's not providing economic theories justifying denser housing. She's not providing economic theories justifying seniors being moved out of their communities into dense housing near railway stations. It's pure political activism. And they disguise it in the cloak of academics to make it look important. They put a brand on it with MIT, which is known for aerospace and great scientific achievement. But basically all this is political nonsense. You put a woman here in front of this and call her chief economist, and really all Redfin is doing is helping their investment friends push political activism and push their investments, ultimately at the expense of people who think they're the customers, which are home buyers and home sellers. So real estate ripoff, big corporations. Redfin is one of the companies. It seems like a relatively smaller company, but it's one of those companies financed by the big ones like BlackRock and Vanguard to do the real damage of undermining American thought, undermining our economics from inside while we're not paying attention. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm open to a discussion on the topic. Put your comments down below. If you like this, there's another video teed up for you in this podcast. Thank you so much. I'm Bill Gross at Bill Gross Probate.